What's going on, folks? Lauren Sisler here with AL.com, hanging with Matt Zenitz, our SEC insider for this week. Week 14 of the college football season, last game of the regular season, which also means the bragging rights on the line. 365 days a year. We're talking Iron Bowl, Alabama, Auburn. And let's just put the focus where we know the focus is going to be going into this matchup. We're talking about Mac Jones. So Mac Jones had the opportunity to cover that game for ESPN, was on the sidelines against Western Carolina, and got to talk to Mac Jones. Great personality. He seems like he's got a lot of confidence. And you and I talked about this in previous weeks about how he's grown and matured as a quarterback, especially even in the locker room, the body language, how he's carrying himself. What was your overall assessment of him in that Western Carolina? And again, I get it, it's Western Carolina, but what did you see from him that gives you a shimmer of hope that they can go in there and take care of business on the offensive side of the football against Auburn?
More so it's been what he's done during the course of the last year. So not even specifically that game, but just over the last year, you've seen that growth and progression from him. Went out, did some good stuff behind the scenes for them in their scrimmages, the build up to the season. And then when he's gotten opportunities this year, has done well. So obviously Arkansas and Western Carolina aren't at the same level defensively as what Auburn is, but it was favorable for Alabama that they were able to get him some reps in those games, some game experience going into a matchup like this, whereas it would have obviously been a lot more difficult if he was going in making his first start or something like that against a defense of this caliber. But I know they're very optimistic, not only because of that growth and progression from him, but the fact that he's going to have some pretty good help out there. So has the receiver group that we've talked about a lot, four of the most talented guys in the country. Najee Harris continuing to do really well at running back for Alabama. Is tied for third nationally right now among Power 5 players with 17 total touchdowns. Has had multiple touchdowns in, I think, each of the last 5 games for Alabama. So part of the reason that it seems like they're so optimistic is that he's going to have some help from some very capable guys.
And you got Henry Ruggs, obviously had some bruised ribs. He sat out against Western Carolina. Expect to get him back. That should be good, obviously, for everyone on that side of the football, certainly, especially going into Jordan-Hare Stadium. So as we close this thing out, my question for you is, where in this matchup do you think, offense or defensive side of the football, where do you think Alabama has its greatest advantage over Auburn?
So first of all, it's going to be interesting watching Mac Jones against that defense, that secondary, that defense as a whole. Just like for me, it's going to be interesting watching Bo Nix for Auburn against Alabama's defense, specifically the secondary. So I would say that the area where I think Alabama may have the biggest advantage is that secondary, which is full of some very good players, even though they struggled some against LSU, against a quarterback who, I guess the best way to put it, has been inconsistent throughout the course of this year. So you have Trayvon Diggs, who even after a rough game against LSU was still very much in the conversation to be a first-round draft pick. Patrick Surtain, if he was eligible to go to the draft this year, would be an early-round guy. Xavier McKinney, another one who's going to be an early-round draft pick next year if he comes out. So that secondary is very much a strength for Alabama. And then you have the quarterback for Auburn, who once again has been inconsistent throughout the course of the year. So it's part of the reason why me going in, very much expecting a low-scoring game, because you have the question marks at quarterback for Alabama, and the same thing for me with Auburn. Some question marks there, especially with him facing a defense, a secondary of this caliber.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting matchup. Of course, we've got you covered on AL.com, so be sure to check us out for all of your updates.